Hello everyone and welcome to the School of Serenity. In this video, I want to share with you how politics negatively impacts our mental health. Avoiding politics is one of the best ways to reduce stress and anxiety. A recent study funded by the National Science Foundation has reported that each person on average has about 12,000 to 60,000 thoughts per day. The interesting fact is that 95% of those thoughts are exactly the same repetitive thoughts as the day before. Furthermore, it is estimated that 80% of those thoughts are negative. We know that the main reason for stress and anxiety is excessive negative mental chatter that causes fear and worries. Human beings are creatures of habit, and once we build unhealthy habits, they become part of our life. The habitual and repetitive thoughts are shown to build new neural pathways in the brain. They make it easier to repeat the same thoughts rather than focusing on others. This brings us to the topic of this video, politics. Following the political news on a regular basis is one of the worst things that we can do for our mental health. Politics and political news are predominantly negative and are curated to induce the sensations of fear, anger, and hopelessness. Here are 5 reasons why politics is so detrimental to our mental health. Number 1, inherent negative bias. Negative bias is a psychological tendency causing people to not only pay more attention to negative news, but also to dwell on them more. Also known as positive-negative asymmetry, the negative bias means that negative political news has more impact and is processed more thoroughly than positive news. The fact is that human beings have evolved to pay more attention to negative news. From an evolutionary perspective, being interested in bad news has served us well in the past, and it has increased our chances of survival. All this means is that we are neurologically programmed to scan our environment for negative stimuli. This kind of bias was critical for our survival in the past. However, it is detrimental to our mental health nowadays. This is because when we are engaged in political discussions or listen to political news, the negative bias triggers our fight or flight system by sending too many false alarms. We tend to wrongfully perceive the political disagreements threatening to our survival, which causes a lot of stress and anxiety. Number 2, confirmation bias. Once we start following politics and watch negative news, we get sucked into a psychological black hole. That's because confirmation bias will keep us locked into negative news. Confirmation bias is our tendency to seek information that validates our pre-existing beliefs. Because of confirmation bias, we get addicted to negative news. This is particularly exacerbated by the fact that social media and news websites are designed to take advantage of our confirmation bias. They're programmed to feed us more news similar to what we have already consumed. They curate streams of suggested content that reinforce our current political views while keeping us agitated and aroused emotionally. Number 3, lower productivity. Mindfulness is key for having peace of mind and happiness. However, politics feeds our inner critic with lots of negative content to work with. Political news is intentionally curated to polarize society and to antagonize people who have different political views. The news outlets, including social media and TV channels, are continuously seeking ways to grab our attention. They're financially motivated to keep us glued to our screens for as long as they can. As a result, they're constantly deploying newer algorithms to increase our engagement with their content. Politics can jumpstart negative mental chatter like no other phenomena. The mental chatter destroys our concentration and focus. Consuming more political news means that we are going to be considerably less productive. The bottom line is that instead of watching negative news, we can finish our projects at work or choose a fun activity that can help us reduce stress and anxiety. Negative news distracts us from and prevents us from using our time efficiently. Number 4, exaggerations and fake news. Many of us believe everything that is published on the web. We feel that they are written by professional journalists who have integrity. We believe that these news outlets have dedicated enough editorial resources to fact-check their own news stories. However, this cannot be further from the truth. Many of these sites have prioritized quantity over quality. They attempt to publish as many articles as possible to attract more eyeballs. The validity of claims made in some of these articles is questionable at best. Moreover, there are many fake news websites lurking everywhere. These fraudulent websites publish false reports filled with propaganda. They tend to attract our attention with their outrageous and often divisive headlines. We should not believe everything that is published online. Number 5, sense of helplessness. Negative news tends to cover fast-developing events that are threatening. They induce fears and worries because they picture an uncertain future for us. After watching violent and negative news, we feel the rush of anxiety because humans want to have control over their own destinies. This unpredictability is what makes us nervous and can be really damaging to our mental well-being. Negative news can make us feel helpless and hopeless. They often cover global events and disasters that are beyond our control. We feel powerless after reading such distressing events. They make us feel that our lives are controlled by forces much more powerful than us. As a result, we get overwhelmed and feel stressed out and anxious. I hope that you liked my video about how politics can be so detrimental to our mental health. If you have any suggestions or any comments, please add them in the comment section below. And don't forget to like this video, to subscribe, and hit the notification bell so that you don't miss any of my future videos. Stay serene, take care, and thank you.